What's up, everybody? It's me. I'm Vish Kumaran, and this is the Vish Kumaran Show. I'm here reacting live to the Niners' 37-15 win over the Carolina Panthers. It's kind of a bittersweet victory. The Niners obviously lost a few key players to injury. We will find out shortly how long those injuries are, and we will discuss in this show, how those injuries may affect the Niners going forward. But a win's a win in the NFL, and the Niners had a really, really good win today. So let's talk about it. The Niners just beat the Panthers, and my real raw reactions to that is, one, it's obviously a very good win. The Niners are a better team than the Panthers. They should have beaten the Panthers, but they did beat the Panthers, and winning in the NFL is hard. So obviously you have to compliment a win right off the bat. I thought the Niners offense found much needed rhythm. They were finally able to run the football today, which made a big impact overall in their offensive efficiency. Jeff Wilson was terrific. Tevin Coleman kind of came out of nowhere. He had a really, really good game today. The rushing touchdown, the reception on the little screen they threw him for the first touchdown, and then, of course, that ridiculous catch where he mossed I think he mossed a linebacker. I don't remember correctly, but he mossed a linebacker on against the blitz on a big third down that Jimmy G threw a dot. So that was one really good thing, right? The Niners offense finally has a rhythm. I thought, elaborating on the offense too, there was a lot of really, really good things, right? Jimmy Garoppolo played really well today. He did put the ball in harm's way a couple times. Once specifically early, his first throw of the game, he didn't see that middle of the field safety, and he nearly threw an interception while trying to target Deebo Samuel over the middle of the field. He kind of rectified that and played a really, really good game. I mean, they blitzed a lot. And there are times where I feel like watching the game, Garoppolo doesn't know where to go with the ball when the blitz comes. Today, he was very decisive. He knew where the blitz was coming from. He knew where his solution was. When the blitz comes, he threw the ball really, really well. He was very accurate. He made a couple of really good throws down the field. One under pressure, back shoulder to Brandon Ayuk. One while getting leveled, which was the ridiculous catch made by Tevin Coleman. He played well today. This version of Garoppolo making the decisions he made, throwing the football the way he did, Niners can go far with that, right? So he played well. Ayuk had a pretty solid game. He had that tough drop on the back shoulder throw that Garoppolo actually dimed. I don't know where that back shoulder throw down the sideline has come from for Garoppolo, but it's a welcome sight. It's good to see it. Obviously tough catch for Ayuk. He couldn't make that catch, but he played well. He converted a couple of key third downs, down the stretch of that game. And then the catch on the 2-point conversion, going up away from his frame and being able to extend his body and catch that football. That was a very good catch. Unfortunately, Banks held on the play. I thought he played well. It was a welcome sight to Kittle. Many of you know that even though I'm kind of new to this because I was on YouTube, but then I came back to YouTube recently. One of the things we did talk about last week is don't get worried about George Kittle. It's going to take some time. They need to find some sync. There was a concerted effort to get Kittle the ball early in this game. Kittle looked like Kittle. He looked terrific. The fumble was not a great play, but he played really, really well. And then obviously it was a rough game for Deebo Samuel, as well as he's played and as good a player as he is. These type of things happen. He didn't have, the type of game Deebo Samuel usually has. He had a couple of drops and stuff like that. But overall, I think the Niners offense took a very positive step. The fact that they ran the football well shows you how good this offense can be. Really, it's built around the run game, especially with who they have playing at offensive line right now. They ran the football really well today. Aaron Banks played well. McGlinchey played well. Burford, Moore. They had a good game up front, especially against a front that has a lot of really talented players. So offensively, I thought the Niners had a really good game, and that's why they won 37-15. Obviously, there's two sides to this. The defense is terrific. The defense was not as dominant as they were in the first 4 weeks, but it's still a great defense. They also played very, very well today. We're going to talk about the injuries and how much those injuries are going to affect the long-term success of this defense, obviously. But I think from a standpoint of, the Niners needed to win this Sunday. They were playing a team they were clearly better than. Their defense played very well. Their offense played very well. Their special teams was a little bit inconsistent. Couple of big kickoff returns that probably shouldn't have happened. Something went wrong, but that's the second time a kick has been blocked. Robbie Gould is not a guy that's had many kicks blocked in his career. Obviously, I think it's a protection issue that needs to get fixed. They brought in the new special teams coordinator, and they spent a lot of money on special teams this offseason with spending money on George Odom and spending money on Oren Burks and getting these kinds of guys. I think you should expect a little better output from their special teams. And so I think that'll be something to monitor. And Mr. Sam mentions it, right? Ray McLeod is risky. Ray McLeod today looked real funky catching the kickoffs. In fact, it was like a 50-50 proposition. Now he's fielding a lot of these, 6 yards deep into the end zone. So he's not really bringing the ball out. So there's not too much of a consequence from what he's doing, but he did not look comfortable catching kickoffs. I don't know what it was. He had a lot of space actually a couple times on punt returns where he didn't gain a lot of yardage. They also spent a lot of money on him to be basically a return specialist. So I think, again, it's tough, right? You can't really react to these things week by week because the NFL season is so fluid. It takes time for people to get comfortable and acclimated. Think about it when you change, a job somewhere, right? We're here talking about Ray McLeod. It takes, 1 to 2 months. I'm going through that transition in my life right now, right? I started working for the first time in July. I know it took me a couple months to be able to get adjusted and understand how my life is going to work. And so similarly, I think that you could say the same thing about the special teams coordinator and the signings, and then, of course, Ray McLeod. But at the same time, I do think it's something we can monitor and look at and say, well, okay, this is not, something that's improved at this point. We can see if it will improve eventually, because if it doesn't, it'll be an issue, obviously, because, this team is not the Chiefs or the Bills on offense. They'll have a good offense, I think, by the end of the season. I think you look at the weapons, you look at Shanahan, and Garoppolo has played well the last 2 games and done a lot of good things to make you feel good about where he's at. So I think they'll have a good offense, but really it's a defense, a really strong defense that's going to drive this team. And then the special teams has to be good too. You can't be giving up big plays on special teams. So that's kind of my instant discombobulated thoughts on the game. I will be live tomorrow, most likely with a guest, to do a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown of the things I saw. I will probably be able to watch the film too before tomorrow, so I'll have a good idea of what the Niners did well and what they didn't. But that's kind of my instantaneous thoughts to the game. Niners offense, real good step forward. Garoppolo played well. Great rhythm for the Niners as a team. Shanahan had a great rhythm as a play caller. Niners defense played very well as well. Special teams has a couple causes for concern. And then, of course, the injuries are the biggest conversation in all of this. And we're going to have to go straight into that conversation. By the way, I did want to mention that I will be answering a few of your questions. So if you got any questions about the game or anything, just throw them in the chat. I'll try to get to them as I go on in the stream or until the end of the stream. I don't want to stream for too long because I do want to catch this Sunday night game, and I know a lot of you do too. But I'll really play it by ear depending on what you guys prefer. I really appreciate all of you joining, of course, and I always love talking football, especially after a Niners game with all of you. So let's get into the injuries conversation, right? Niners had 4 key players get injured today. They had Nick Bosa, Emmanuel Mosley, Robbie Gould, and Jimmy Ward suffer injuries. Let's go through them one by one, right? Jimmy Ward, he played 1 play, first down, base defense. They had Jimmy Ward in there as kind of the third, quote-unquote, linebacker. And he played 1 play coming off of, obviously, I think it's a quad injury, quad or hamstring, I'm not sure. I think it's a quad injury. Well, and he then immediately got hurt. Of course, he hurt his hand. I think a lot of us assume it's a broken hand because they ruled Jimmy Ward out, in the first quarter of the game. And so I would assume if they thought that, he just had a bruise on his hand, he wouldn't have been ruled out immediately. The extent of the injury, that's my guess. I'm not here to speculate or give a medical timeline. In terms of the loss, at this point, at any other point in the history of the Niners with Jimmy Ward, since he's been the starting safety since 2019, I think this would be a loss that the Niners wouldn't be able to overcome. But I think because of how well Hufanga has played, even though he didn't have maybe the best game of his career today, he just played well. He didn't play amazing like he's played the first 4 games. Oh no, Talanoa Hufanga just played well. I'm half joking when I say that because obviously he's an awesome player, but the emergence of him and how good he is, and then Tashawn Gibson, who's been a steady player for a long time. He was a really good player in Cleveland. He signed a big contract in Jacksonville and all of that. It's just that for whatever reason, the modern NFL has no life for safeties once they hit 29, 30. If you're a 6-7 year starter at safety, even if you're still a good player, there's just teams are opting to go younger than their backups. They want these younger guys who play special teams. They don't want these older veteran starting safety types. So a lot of them, go job to job a little bit at this point in their career. I think that's the case for Tashawn Gibson, but he's showing he's clearly a starting safety. He had another very steady game. He's a very good player. He's a veteran player. So again, if Ward's out for an extended period of time, is it a big loss for the Niners defense? Absolutely. He's one of their best players. But I don't think of the injuries that we're looking at below on the screen, right? There's 4 of them to 4 key players. I think that's the one that they can maybe overcome because they got 2 players at that position playing very, very well at the moment. But don't get me wrong, this team is a better team and a better defense with Jimmy Ward on the field. Let's hope that the injury is not too serious. The next question, right, the next guy is the best player on the 49ers. It's Nick Bosa. He had an injured groin today. How long he's out, again, we don't know. I'm sure Shanahan will say something after the game, but I'm sure they'll get more information over the next couple of days to have a real idea. The worry with Bosa is usually when there's a muscle injury, they go to the questionable tag. Even if it's a pull or strain, right, they say questionable, and the guy never returns, but they say questionable. They ruled Bosa out pretty immediately after this, so I wonder if that maybe had anything to do with the extent. Knock on wood that it's not serious. The Niners need Nick Bosa to be good, right? Like, their defense is very good. I think they can have a very good defense without Bosa. Bosa's a special player. He's a dominant defensive player. He changes games. He wrecks games. He wins games by himself. We saw that last week, how dominant Nick Bosa is. Division game against a divisional opponent. Nick Bosa single-handedly wrecked that game. He's a dominant football player. He was, to me, the defensive player of the year, and I don't just say that as a Niners fan. I think truly he was the defensive player of the year until this point, before this injury. We'll see how serious it is, but I think that's one that if the Niners have a serious injury to Nick Bosa, I have questions about their entire season. The first time I ever did anything on YouTube, I streamed with Grant week 2 of the COVID year, 2020, right? So right after the Jets game when Nick Bosa tore his ACL, I said at the time on the first ever stream I've ever done that the Niners season was over, like with Nick Bosa out for the year. I feel that strongly about Nick Bosa's impact on this team. He is a generational special player. We will see how much this injury, how long it keeps him out. Let's hope it's not serious. But I do think that if he is out, it's a monumental loss. It's a loss I don't think this team can overcome. The next player is Emmanuel Mosley. This one I just felt really sad about. He walked off the field, or he got help walking off the field, and then he was walking on the sideline. Again, another one. We don't know the extent. Let's hope it's not serious. But if he is out first, I just felt gutted for Emmanuel Mosley, right? This is a guy, undrafted player, did a lot of really good things to originally make this team, and then he's played so well every time he's gotten an opportunity to start. He's gotten better every offseason. He's so good against the run. He's so assignment sound. He's aggressive. He's everything that you would want in terms of an undrafted player developing into a starter. His story is fantastic. And then you take that onto Emmanuel Mosley was playing like a Pro Bowl player. He had a pick 6 in this game, and he is on track to get paid this offseason, whether it's by the 49ers, whether it's by somebody else. And Emmanuel Mosley was going to make I think, going to make a lot of money this offseason. So from that standpoint, I'm gutted for the person and the player. Like, if this is a serious injury, I think it would be brutal. In terms of the impact, I do think the Niners have the most corner depth they've ever had under Kyle Shanahan, right? We talked about it. Jason Verrett is coming back. I said that to me, Jason Verrett is the ultimate insurance policy last week. If God, worst thing happens, some bad injury happens to one of these guys starting, having Jason Verrett there is great. But otherwise, I don't know if they really need Jason Verrett this year because their starting corners are so good and Verrett doesn't play special teams and he has the injury history. You don't need to actually rush him back. You can kind of keep him on the back burner and allow him to get as healthy as possible. Well, now the Niners do need Jason Verrett. I do think that, so they went with replacing Emmanuel Mosley. They gave a little look because Mosley was out for a couple of plays. They gave that little look of Lenore moving outside and having him and Mooney Ward on the outside and Womack coming back into the slot. I actually thought it would be the opposite. I thought Womack would replace Mosley on the outside and Lenore would stick to the slot. That's probably going to be the combination they go with going forward until Jason Verrett is healthy, as Pizza Party tells us that Kyle Shanahan says Mosley's an ACL. So if Mosley's an ACL, he's out for a year. That's probably what they're going to do. So from that standpoint, right, you should be thankful you're going to have Jason Verrett. But I do think the corner depth takes a hit, obviously. Ambry Thomas, he was okay, I guess, last year for a rookie. He didn't play particularly well last offseason. Then he had improved during the season, and he played okay for a rookie. He had a really bad offseason by all accounts this offseason. He hasn't looked very good in the preseason from what I've been able to watch. I don't have a definitive opinion on him today. It's hard to say where he is in his career, but at this point, I don't know if he's actually ready to be, a starting corner on the other side of Mooney Ward for the caliber of defense this needs to be. I think he can. I don't know if he's ready for that. So, corner depth is going to be tested now. I think it's really unfortunate to hear Emmanuel Mosley has an ACL injury. I hope it's not the tear, but we'll see. I'm gutted for Emmanuel Mosley. It's a big loss for the Niners defense. I think we'll have to see, just depending on the health of other players, what will happen. But I do think that we can at least be thankful that this year they have applied some resources in terms of getting depth to the position. So, they're not going to have to sign Josh Norman and Drake Kirkpatrick tomorrow and have those guys suit up and play Sunday. So I guess that's the one silver lining here. It's obviously a bittersweet victory now for the Niners. Let's hope, again, it's not a torn ACL for Emmanuel Mosley. The final injury we have to touch on is the Robbie Gould injury. That one, I don't know exactly what happened, right? The kickoff coverage, first of all, is bad. You shouldn't be in a position where your kicker is the one that needs to make that tackle. Gould is obviously the one that is the new kickoff specialist. Wishnowsky was doing it a couple years ago. He's not very good at kicking the ball off. We can see he doesn't kick it off the tee very naturally. I played soccer. Wishnowsky's technique is not soccer style. A lot of people who play soccer kick soccer style, like Robbie Gould, they bend their knee very far and they create that snap from their knee and extend out through their toe when they kick through the ball. Wishnowsky kind of we used to call it, my coaches when I used to play called it Frankenstein legs, where you keep your straight leg completely straight and just try to kick straight through the ball. That's kind of how he kicks when he's kicking off. We saw a couple of those kicks were quite ugly. He's obviously not the answer for the kicking game. They're going to sign somebody, but Gould has been so steady and we know how clutch he is. So I do think that will be something that's a question mark. We will see what the injury is with Robbie Gould. There's two things I do want to say about Robbie Gould, though. I think one, in regards to Robbie Gould, this is maybe an opportunity, right? His contract is expiring this offseason. The Niners are going to have to find a long-term solution at kicker. He's pretty old. He's in his 40s. We don't know when he's going to retire. I live in an area where, like 15 minutes from where Robbie Gould lives, and I do know that Robbie Gould, I don't know if I can say that, but the point is, I don't know if I could say it, not because I'm going to say anything groundbreaking. It's just either way, going back, the point is the Niners are going to have to find a solution at kicker long-term anyway. So we'll find out if they can maybe find something if Robbie Gould is out for an extended period of time. But obviously the Niners do need Robbie Gould. As much as we, make fun of the value of kickers, I guess, sometimes in a joking community, he has great value with the fact that he's so steady. He doesn't miss big kicks. The Niners do need him, obviously, they need his just veteran presence, knowing that, in a tight game in the playoffs, Robbie Gould is not going to be choke in that moment. So those are kind of my immediate thoughts after the game. I would love to take a few of your questions and just discuss some of the things that happened in the game. Again, I'll go live tomorrow to try and give likely with a guest, to try and give a more in-depth breakdown of, what I thought happened in the game, some of the schematics, stuff like that. But right now, this is kind of my raw disc. Again, it's a little discombobulated. Excuse me. I said I would work on the organization, my thoughts. I think it was better today. I would need your feedback in the comments. I think it was a little bit better. I was a little more organized going through that, but you got to let me know. But yeah, what's up? Ahmed 50 says Emmanuel Mosley ACL. Yeah, it's a really tough injury. Has it been confirmed to be torn? I think that the assumption is usually with an ACL that it is that. I hope that there's any way it's not. Again, I let alone the fact that he's such a really good player, and he's a guy that obviously I root for as a fan of the Niners. It's even more gutting because he's a guy that was about to get, or is about to still get, a huge payday. But of course, the injury definitely affects that. That's unfortunate. And he was a guy that was going to get a lot of accolades this season. He was playing at a Pro Bowl level. So I think Bull Uppercutter, excuse me. I don't know where the Billy came from. Bull Uppercutter asks, how much worse are we without Mosley? This is kind of what I talked about in the last segment. It all depends on where Jason Verrett's health is, right? If Jason Verrett is going to be Jason Verrett and he's going to come back, and move how Jason Verrett moves, I don't know if they're necessarily worse without Mosley. And that's not anything against Mosley. That just tells you how gifted Jason Verrett is as a player. But if Jason Verrett isn't, I do think there's some questions. Diamador Lenore has played very, very well at the nickel position. We'll see how he does if he has to make that transition outside. Sam Womack has covered well in the 2 games he's played nickel. He's maybe not been as aggressive and as good tackling as Diamador Lenore has been. So we'll find out. We'll see who plays on the outside. But to me, this entire topic, it will be dictated by Jason Verrett's health. If Jason Verrett is healthy, things could be okay without Emmanuel Mosley for the 49ers. Someone said Ward is fragile. I don't know if you could say that. The guy has played almost, if he's played, like 45 games he started over the last 3 years, or 42, something like that, 42 of 48, something like that. He started a lot. He's played a lot. It's an unlucky thing. It's tough when people say, like a guy's fragile or he gets hurt or, he's injury prone. There's nothing really medically that makes you be more injury prone. Sometimes your body just gets caught in tough positions. It's unfortunate. It's unlucky. Niners should be glad they have Tashaun Gibson playing at the level he's playing. Yeah, this was definitely interesting, but I think it was also expected. I've talked about this over the last week. I don't think they trust Jordan Mason. It's pretty clear. Jordan Mason is not in Kyle Shanahan's trust circle in terms of being assignment sound. They clearly do not. It has to do with probably pass protection assignments, just assignments in the pass game, assignments in the run game, all of that. I don't think he's ready. I don't think that's an indictment, too, of where Mason could be in his career, because they clearly like him. I mentioned that. They kept him over a 3rd-round pick in Trey Sermon. They clearly like Jordan Mason. Today, he's clearly not ready. They went with a veteran player, and Coleman rewarded them. He played very well today. And the one thing you can say about Tevin Coleman throughout his career, I think there's 2 things that you can say, right? A lot of people get on him for how he runs. I do think that he's a guy that takes more contact because of how upright he runs. His legs get really beaten up towards the course of a season. So I think a lot of his poor runs also have to do with, obviously he doesn't have the world's greatest vision, but it's also just he doesn't have the same explosion he starts the season off with because his legs get beaten up. But in terms of for Tevin Coleman, he's always been great in pass protection and he's always been assignment sound. And I think those are the two reasons why at this point he sees the field more than Jordan Mason. And then we'll see what happens when Ty Davis Price recovers from that ankle. They never put him on IR. So that return could really be in 1 to 2 weeks, right around the corner. I would love to see how the carry distribution works then. E-Man asks, did Jeff Wilson Jr. find the fountain? Did Jeff Wilson Jr. find the fountain of youth? He's had some bursts to his game. I think there's no doubt about that. Jeff Wilson looked explosive. He had the big explosive run last week, and he looked explosive this week on that run that got down to the 1 yard line. He played really, really well today. The Niners offense is so predicated on getting that run game going. When they do get that run game going, it opens up so much more for them. And they were able to run the football really, really well today. So I think that's a very, very positive thing moving forward. Again, we seem to have a lot more people starting to trickle in here. I talked about my immediate reactions to the loss. I just want to make sure. I also talked about the injuries, obviously. I will go live tomorrow as well to try and, talk through this, have an instant reaction. Tomorrow we'll also have a better idea of, what guys' injuries are, and we'll be able to talk through this. Today I just gave, my immediate thoughts, what I thought happened. Gurman Pata says Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy hitting outside the numbers on those back shoulder balls was refreshing to see. Yeah, I thought he played really well today. I don't know what I think the stats didn't tell the whole story. The throw to Ayuk was a great throw. Under pressure, saw the blitz coming, threw the ball back shoulder, corners playing in phase. It's a great throw. Ayuk's got to make that catch. The ball to Tevin Coleman, about to get leveled, pressures in his face, great throw. Threw an absolute seed to Kittle on the first throw, third down, where it was tight ball in traffic. He ripped it through a tight window, threw the ball with anticipation. He had a guy straight in his face. It's a great throw. He had a couple other great throws. The throw to Debo before Debo caught that touchdown where J.C. Horn kind of made a play on it. This is a really great throw. Threw it on the back pylon with touch. So I thought he played very well today. He obviously still had a couple of balls that gave the other team an opportunity. I think that's in every Jimmy Garoppolo game. That's just who he is. That's what he does. But the way he played today, he knew where to go with the football when his back foot hit. He knew where to go with the football when the blitz came. I think all of those things are really, really positive. He threw the ball really well. He threw a couple of strikes today. Like, he really put some RPMs on the ball over the middle of the field. All those things were really positive. I think if he plays like this, Niners defense gets healthy. Knock on wood that these injuries aren't long-term. Trent Williams gets healthy. Debo's not going to have another game where he has all the mental mistakes he made today. It's all moving in a positive direction. Yeah, there were quite a few drops, right? And shout out, by the way, I wanted to mention him. I didn't mention him earlier. Juwan Jennings had a terrific game. He had 2 big third down catches where he made 2 great plays after the catch. He has become a very reliable player. We know how good he is in the run game. He's an awesome blocker. He blocks with a tenacity. He competes. He's very good too. I wouldn't say he's very good. He's very steady in the pass game. He creates space in a tight space for a very big guy very well, actually, especially for a guy without, the most explosion and agility and movement and speed. He's become a very good player. Another one of these later round draft guys that, the Niners keep around for a couple years. They develop, they get them ready in the system, and they play with such toughness and competitiveness and without hesitation. All really positive. I thought he deserved a shout out because it was a rough day. Like Flavor Reborn Restoration says, it was a rough day for the Niners receivers. There were a few blocks. There were a few plays that did not look the best. And he played very well. He didn't have many mistakes from what I could tell. And then, of course, Jimmy G also, yes, he did look like a solid B+. Pizza Party says NFC East is 14-6, just like we all expected. Yeah, I was joking about that on Twitter today, actually. We all expected the NFC East to send 3 teams to the NFC playoffs, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. But it just shows you how the league can flip, right? The NFC once vaunted NFC West. Seattle is kind of like an average team, really. They'll compete in every game. Gino is having a hell of a season. He's a great story. Seattle has talent, but not enough talent. But they have a lot of young players that they're an encouraging team, I guess. Arizona's a mess. There's a lot of problems in Arizona. I know that, they played Philadelphia today and they had another one of those games where they started slow, then they came back, but then they lost. They're a mess. The Rams have so many issues. I think the Rams still will make it to the playoffs because I don't think they're going to lose to a lot of bad teams. But their schedule is really tough, and they have a lot of issues. First, they just lack talent to me on defense. They just lack talent in general. And then on offense, there's issues. That's like a third, fourth string offensive line. It's horrible. The receivers outside of Cup aren't promising. It's a bad situation. And then, of course, Stafford has compounded mistakes as well. So it's been a lot of that. So the NFC West, once we looked at as the best division, really has one team, I would say, that's really special. And got the capability to be special. And that's the Niners. And then, you've got this entire 180 with the NFC East where I think most people expected Philadelphia to be pretty good and then a question mark on those other 3 teams. Well, Dallas and New York are playing really well. Dallas especially. Dan Quinn's been on fire on defense, and Dallas is playing very, very good football. Yeah, Evan, I actually talked about the injuries earlier. I think I went on maybe a little bit too early right after the game. I went on immediately after the game. I don't know if there were a lot of people getting to it. I talked about it. I guess I can talk about it again. The Jimmy Ward injury, obviously, it's a tough injury for the Niners. They need him healthy, but it's an injury that, if he is out again for a long period of time right now, they got 2 guys playing very, very well at safety. So it's not, an injury that it's maybe an injury that they can overcome, even though they're losing a really good player. The Bosa injury, they're already missing Armstead and Kinlaw. Bosa is maybe the best player on the team. It's really, if Bosa's out for an extended period of time, I rethink my entire outlook of the 49ers. That's how good Nick Bosa is. He is everything to me for this defense. He's truly a special, spectacular player, a guy who's, on a Hall of Fame track as we speak. Like, Nick Bosa's 2 out of 3 seasons in the NFL and 1 season lost to the ACL. He's on a Hall of Fame track. Mosley, I mentioned it depends all on the Verrett injury, right? If Verrett is able to come back and beat Jason Verrett, you're not as worried about losing a guy in Mosley who's played at a Pro Bowl level and is a very good player. If Verrett isn't, I do think now we're in a little bit of, we have questions about who's going to replace him. But again, the Niners have added corner depth this season. It is being tested once again, like it is tested every year under Kyle Shanahan. And so we'll find out how good that corner depth is this year. And then finally, Robbie Gould, obviously huge loss, but it also gives the Niners an opportunity. Robbie Gould is a free agent after this year. They're going to have to find a longer-term, younger solution at kicker eventually. Obviously, Gould is also in his 40s. He could retire at any moment. Who knows how much longer he's going to play. I don't know if – okay. Well, okay. I live in an area, like I just moved to an area in like the northern suburbs of Illinois that's kind of near where Robbie Gould lives. And I do know that I don't know when he's going to retire, but I do know that he's eventually going to be a high school special teams coach around here. Once he does retire, I know that that's kind of been in the works for a little bit. So it could be really after this year that Robbie Gould just hangs it up. So the Niners do need to find a solution at kicker that's away from Robbie Gould anyway. It sucks if he's out for an extended period of time because of how steady and reliable he is. He's a very good kicker. He's one of the greatest kickers in NFL history. But I would say, yeah, they need to find that. Michael Goldberg asks, can Womack or JV replace Mosley? Womack, right, we have to see. We don't know. He has the physical profile to play on the outside, right? He's got enough speed to be able to play on the outside, and then he's got enough length. Really playing corner in the outside, to me in the NFL, is the first thing you need to have is speed. If you can get run by NFL receivers on the outside, if they can challenge you vertically, if the go ball is a threat, to me, you can't be a starting caliber outside corner. You have to be able to eliminate the go ball first. And Womack does have that speed, so he should be able to play on the outside. I do think that he's going to actually end up kicking inside, and they're going to go with Lenore on the outside. That's what they did in this game. But in terms of Verrett, it just depends on his health. And a fully healthy Jason Verrett absolutely can replace Emmanuel Mosley. A fully healthy Jason Verrett is one of the 10 best corners in the NFL. Will we get that? I don't know. I cannot answer that question. Samir asks, late to the show, no issues. Appreciate you joining, Samir. What's the schedule for the live shows this week? So I'll go today. I think I'm going to go for another maybe 10 minutes. So if you've got any more questions, just throw them in the chat. I'll try to get to as many as I can. I will definitely go live probably tomorrow. Hopefully after watching the film and having a better idea, I'm going to probably have a guest on, and we're going to just talk through all the big topics with the Niners. I'm sure a lot will change tomorrow because we're going to get so much more information about these injuries. And that's 4 key players that got injured. So I'll do that. And then I'll probably stream later in the week, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, somewhere in there to preview the game against Atlanta and just talk about, some of the more important topics, just because, the Niners are the most interesting team in the NFL. There's a new topic with the Niners every day. So, yeah, I assume the reports would be this way in regards to Jimmy Ward's hands. They ruled him out so quick that you had to have that question. But, yeah. I personally do not have an opinion on it. I'm not the one on the field competing. I don't think I can have an opinion on it. I think the NFL players have screamed their opinion on this. They clearly don't like the turf. The turf clearly gets them hurt. I think that it's time the NFL listens to them. There's such an emphasis placed, and I don't want to go on a tangent because I know a lot of people want to talk about the Niners winning the injuries, but I do think this needs to be said. The NFL places such an emphasis on player safety, or they put out the impression that they do. And I do think player safety is improved, and I do think player safety is the most important thing, especially when you're running a business like the NFL's. The players are the product. They're the ones that make the NFL, the most interesting TV show in the sports. The players are that. They make the NFL. They're fantastic. Their stories are fantastic. Their athletic achievement is fantastic. And I think the emphasis on protecting them is better. And clearly there's an issue with the turf that it's causing injuries. Players keep saying it. I think that it's time you listen to them. These billionaires make so much money. I understand grass is hard to maintain, but they have the money and the resources to be able to maintain natural grass for these fields. The NFL is, to me, the best product on TV on any given week. It is my favorite pastime and hobby to talk about it, to watch it, all of these things. If the grass helps, I do think that the players should be given the best possible variables to be able to compete and do their job on the field. And I do think that enough players have spoken up on this topic that there should be a concerted effort to make a change on this. So that would be my 2 cents on this topic. Thatcher says my cartoon thumbnail is creepy. Is it creepy? I don't really know. If you think it's creepy, Thatcher, maybe I'll come up with something different. I don't know. I'd love to hear a little bit more feedback, but I appreciate the thoughts, Thatcher. I have not seen this footage. I'll make sure to go check it out. Make sure you guys do too. Grant's YouTube channel. You know where it is. Make sure you're definitely tuning into his post game too, because I'm sure he'll have a lot of great thoughts. It's been about 40 minutes. I don't see any more real questions in the chat. I think there's nothing else, I might just call it right here and get ready to watch the Sunday night game. If you've got a question right now, you've got, 30, 40 seconds to throw this baby in there. Otherwise, I'm going to end this stream right here. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate all of your support. It's been overwhelming over the last week. I'm so happy to be able to come back on this platform and be able to talk sports with all of you. I really enjoy it. I do. And I'm fortunate that I get to do that with all of you. And I will be back tomorrow, obviously. And so Pizza Party says, there were a couple more comments. Let me just get to these. Pizza Party says your show with Croc and Greg was great. Thank you so much. That was a really, really fun show. I thought we talked a lot about deeper topics that are maybe a little bit more about, the nuances of the schematics and all of that about football. I really enjoyed doing that show. Shout out to Croc. He's fantastic. Greg is as well. So much insight from the both of them. And then, otherwise, have a good one, guys. Appreciate all of you. Again, appreciate the support. Please like, subscribe. Throw in the comments what your thoughts were on these injuries, how you felt about the Niners win. And just also throw in the comments any feedback you have for me. Obviously, I'm new to this. I'm new to the format of doing it by myself. Anything I can improve on. I know there's a lot of comments about my setup. That's a work in progress. I'm definitely looking to upgrade that. But anything else I can improve on, let me know. I'll do my best to get better at those things. Otherwise, again, I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Sunday night, and I'll be back tomorrow.